Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colynn
And I'm Meridee.
and welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colynn. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meridee?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colynn here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. We're super excited about this episode because we were just having an incredibly deep conversation and then we were like, shit, we should probably be recording this. So today we are going to talk about gaslighting, narcissists, ourselves within this. And we just kind of want to have a conversation about what that looks like. So Lynn, let's get straight into it. You were going to start this.
Great.
I'm already like, where were we again?
Yeah, I got this. So I appreciate this conversation. One of the things I want to lead with is I'm in a healing space on the regular. And so what I hear a lot is people calling other people narcissists. And to be honest, what I'm finding is that a lot of people really aren't doing the research of what a narcissist is. And so what they're doing is if someone doesn't agree with you, or maybe you have a bad relationship, it's just labeling someone that didn't do what you wanted them to as a narcissist. So please take the time to really look at, first of all, narcissistic personality disorder, which is a personality disorder, and then narcissistic behavior. A lot of, I think, what we're looking at is narcissistic behavior. And also like
in the generalized world.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also like our judgments on people in our lives and situations that we've been in. So I just want to open that way because I don't think it's cool to call someone a narcissist.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And so to start this as well, there is a book, and I believe it's called Creating the Perfect Narcissist, or Creating a Narcissist, something like that. And this isn't to place blame either. This is just an awareness. And that's the whole reason we brought this up. So this Creating a Narcissist, I haven't read the whole book. I have read parts of it, and now want to definitely dig further into it. But what it basically says is how to create a perfect narcissist, which is how to create this narcissistic personality disorder within someone. And the book talks about basically like how you can create this narcissist by your child never being wrong, by overdoing it with your kids. Like we're trying so hard to show love to our children and show support, even in times where you don't actually support them, or you don't actually want to support them in the decisions they're making and things like that. But it's like an overabundance of that. It's your kid is never wrong. Your kid is perfect. You're trying to encourage
the opposite too. Your kid is never right. Your kid is so wrong. Right. So a common kind of, I just looked it up. I was like, so what
I was
is,
just going to say, I was just going to look it up. So yeah, please read to us.
right?
And
What
read us
is,
some of the narcissistic traits that also come along with that. That's quite the face.
I know, I was like, I just made quite the face and I think I X'd out. So what is the definition? Let's see if it comes up of narcissist. Definition of a narcissist. Okay. So what came up under like a dictionary is a person who has excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. And then I went into like going a little bit deeper and I went to WebMD, which differentiates between like narcissistic personality disorder and then
And
narcissism.
traits.
And
Yes.
what the beginning said, narcissism is extreme self-involvement to the degree that it makes a person ignore the needs of those around them. So we're also in a place, in a culture, in a society that's promoting self-care, and selfish
Sorry.
isn't bad.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of that to add in, like just because you think someone didn't treat you right in a relationship doesn't necessarily mean that they were a narcissist, but there
Yes.
is narcissistic behaviors. So
Can you give us some of those from the internet as well? Give us some of the narcissistic traits. Or even that I looked up, I remember there was a guy I recently dated that we talked about that was a narcissist, and I went and looked it up. And I was like, holy shit, like all 5 of these things are him. And not just, oh shit, all these things are him. Like on another level, these things were him. Okay. So they need to be an extreme level of these things because we all have narcissistic traits otherwise.
I mean, there's so much like signs of narcissism, right? And it's still being studied and explored because this is new. Personality disorders are newer to the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Illness. So a sense of entitlement, right? A common sign of narcissism is that people believe that they're superior to others and deserve special treatment. Okay.
Without
And that
needing to do anything to get it.
and that other people should just be obedient to their wishes. The rules don't apply to them.
Yes.
There's manipulative behavior. A common trait is controlling behavior. First, try to please you and impress you, but eventually their own needs will come first. And when relating to other people, they'll try to keep people at a certain distance in order to maintain control, including exploiting others to gain something for themselves. There's a definite need for admiration. One of the most common signs is a constant need for praise or admiration. People
And when they
with this,
don't get that, the other traits start to show up, like manipulation, making you, gaslighting you, things like that will start to happen when their needs are not being met.
a huge sign is a lack of empathy.
Now, the difference between sympathy and empathy, I would
Sympathy
like
is
to
like
clear.
feeling bad for somebody. Like, let's just say like someone has a shitty life situation and you feel bad for them. Empathy is actually putting yourself in their shoes and then seeing why they would make decisions based on where they're coming from. So Meridee and I we're talking about a situation with someone that she loves very much who's making a decision that, you know, it seems like a dumb decision. And then this is what started the conversation. I was like, look at it this way. The empathy isn't because I necessarily put myself into this person's shoes, it's because I am in their shoes. And then I'm like, let's just replace this business and this business with family and a boyfriend, and then let's make this person me. And why do I keep doing this? So I'm giving you this understanding so you might understand why this person is making those decisions. And so that Meridee had empathy of like, oh, because she just wouldn't do it.
And for me, I have been in a narcissistic relationship. I even like there's a few things within that has surfaced for me, being that I've seen a few friends in outright narcissistic relationships, that the behaviors of them brought out PTSD I didn't even realize I had. So, and then in conversations that I've had with other people about their narcissistic relationships, whether they're real or not, it's very distinguishable. And most of the people that I've spoken to have PTSD from it. And we carry that into our lives, even when we don't want to. Mine started 20 years ago, ended 18 years ago, 17 years ago-ish. And those things have been, they affected my life. And so because of how heavily they affected my life, and now anybody who hears the story of my narcissistic relationship is like, how did that even happen to you? Because that's not who you are.
It's like
at all. Like my ex-husband was the first man that I had sex with. I married him. I had 2 children with him. Like my plan and the things that I had in my life were very set. And within that, if my ex-husband had ever cheated, which I'm going to say he wouldn't have because of our relationship and all the things, but if he had ever cheated, that quickly I would have been out. Goodbye, I'm done. My narcissistic relationship, because of the manipulation, because of the gaslighting, because of all of the things, I stayed in that relationship for 3.5 years. And the entire time the guy was cheating on me. But he made me feel crazy that I thought he was cheating on me, even when the woman came to me and said, I am fucking your boyfriend. Then a great example of this is I sat with her at Christmas. I was in the town. I was out of Kamloops, and I was in this town, and that's where she lived. And she had called me and said, I'd like to meet with you. We had coffee. She told me everything. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to have this conversation with him. And she said, I'd like to be there because I know that he's a narcissist. And it was the first time I had ever heard it. And she said, I know he's a narcissist and I know he's going to gaslight you. And none of these terms were something I had known of.
right.
I dug into those terms, and then he showed up, and his way of dealing with it was to not deal with it at all. He pulled up, saw her in the car, knew that I needed to go get my stuff from where it was, and said, I'm not dealing with this. And he turned around and drove away. When I got to the place to get my stuff to leave, he gave me a ring and told me I was going to tell you everything and then propose.
Lovely.
When you're in love, your brain doesn't work properly.
Well,
Okay,
it's
can we
not
talk
love.
about the chemistry of
trauma
oxytocin?
bonding.
Yes. And the oxytocin makes us so we don't think properly. And so I didn't think properly. And even though in the moment I was like, I'm out, this is it for me, I left. The next day he followed me home and then gaslit me and did all the things narcissists do. And guess who ended up back with the guy that's been cheating on me for 3 years? My entire family was taken away from me because of choices I kept making, and them kept saying, you're doing, this is not good for you. This is unhealthy. You're not the same person. Like all of these concerns kept coming up, and I was just like, fuck you all. Only for me to come around and see, oh, these people were coming because they loved me and they didn't want this for me. That's some of the things that we want to talk about today, is the fact that when you have an entire group of people who love you so much. So say, for example, in that relationship, my dad, my sister, my best friend were like, this is not good. Why are you doing this? So the 3 people that are the most important to me, 3 people that are the most important to me are telling me this isn't good and it's fucking up all of our relationships and we've never argued and yet here we're arguing and all of the things. And I turned and said, well, then fuck right off. Why are the people that love you saying the things they're saying? Because they certainly don't want you unhappy. They're not trying to prevent your happiness. I fucking promise you that. Not if they truly love you.
Let's go back to a couple more things. Arrogance. People with narcissistic behavior see themselves as superior, so they can become rude and abusive when they don't receive the treatment that they think they deserve. While they hold themselves superior, they may speak or act rudely to people that they deem inferior. There's a sense of self-importance, an exaggeration of their achievements, a preoccupation with fantasies of success, power, brilliance, a belief they're more special, envy of others, or the belief that others are envious of them, insisting they have the best of everything, and then feeling they deserve privileges and special treatment. So there's a lot more on this, but these are like some common signs that we'll see and that we started talking about today, because I have started to recognize in myself a way that I can actually notice when I'm getting into a situation. So Meridee said love. I really think that most of us don't actually fall in love. I think that we trauma bond, right? So we've talked about like finding out your stories. So one of the stories I have is I'm unlovable. right? So what I look for is someone that will really love me, right? The interesting part is where that story came from, I'm unlovable, is from a certain person that behaved a certain way as I was growing up. So I tend to be like gravitated towards those people. Now, let's look at it from that person's not a piece of shit. That person has their own trauma. So
Mhm.
there's something that's in them. Let's just say it's a narcissist, right? They're only a narcissist because either when they were kids, they didn't get, like, they were just pieces of shit that sucked. And so they're trying to get their needs filled, or they were the golden child that was so perfect and couldn't be wrong. And so they think of themselves as really grand. So think of someone who's unlovable and then think of someone who's so amazing, right? Those people will easily trauma bond because we're going to play out our stories together. I'm going to think you're amazing and I'm so lucky to have you because I'm unlovable, and you're going to tell me all of that. And I'm going to believe it because I think myself a piece of shit enough that I'm just so lucky to have you. And I've been in this situation where the partner tells me no one will ever treat you like I did. You will never find someone like me. I'm such a good guy. And then he shows me by opening my door. And then he shows me by getting mad at me when I open my own door because I don't understand that I'm worthy enough to have my door opened for me. Therefore, when I go into the population of the world and a dude doesn't open my door, that guy's a piece of shit. And my partner has showed me how amazing it is, to the point that probably I will not find someone who did so much for me, essentially putting me in a space of not being able to take care of myself. Now, that's me. I take full responsibility as well for not healing my trauma and getting locked into repeated trauma.
Yeah.
So I had a situation last night. I have a lot going on. I don't want to put it out there too much because of
Yet.
legal. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Can we pause for 1 sec? There's something I
yes,
feel like I need to
do it.
insert here. When it comes to what you had just said about love. So we did have a brief conversation in the past where I said, I feel like love is so selfish. And this is where I think our definition of love, because I don't think I don't think it's truly love. So our definition of relationship love is what is so selfish, because it's all about how that person makes me feel. And even if, you know what, I'm so in love with this guy because he does this for other people, it's still about how that makes me feel about what he's doing. It's about fucking me. That to me is not love, especially when Buddha brings up, if you love a flower, you don't pick it, you water it. What we do in our love is we pick the flower and then we sit there and try and water it to death, which is what we do because you've picked it. It's going to die. Where it's asking what Buddha is saying love is loving something without conditions and allowing it to do whatever it's supposed to do, not meaning treat you badly, not meaning any of those things, meaning that to love something, you don't need to change it. So again, that also is going to come down to if you walk into a relationship thinking, I need to change this person, or if only these things about them changed, you shouldn't be walking into that relationship because it's not fair to the other person, because you're walking in expecting them to become something they're not. And for me, the definition of love is really changing, because this love, especially a narcissistic one, there is no love like that kind of love. Now, again, I'm saying it's not love, but there's nothing that feels quite like that. I'm going to outright put it out there that most of the people I've spoken to will also say that they've never had sex like they did with their narcissistic person. And you'll never get that feeling back. Now, when you meet someone and there is that excitement, meaning butterflies, your body's having a fucking reaction, we need to be aware that that is your body actually saying, get the fuck out, because you're not safe. Whereas a safe love isn't going to feel all exciting and all out of control. It's going to feel calm and soothing and therefore goes against everything that we define as love.
What we've been taught, our beliefs
Yes.
that were taught
Yes.
to us.
Yes. So I just needed to put that out there
Yeah.
about love, because
I
this
love
is a new thing for me to be learning too, is, you know, when you're out there dating and I get that sensation in my body now that I'm so much more aware of my nervous system and when it's feeling triggered, I'm like, holy shit, when I watch Yellowstone and everyone's getting shot, I feel this way. Probably should not have another coffee with this dude.
Right. It's
Right?
actually a really good book to read. It's called, I think it's called She or Her. It's written, I can't remember the guy who wrote it. This is
The
terrible,
guy.
but you got to read the book. He was a Jungian student. So he was a Jungian follower of Carl Jung. And it basically what it does, there's one called She and one called He, I think, and this one's called She. Anyways, the story is it's like the oldest love story out there. Okay. And it's like, you know, Greek or Roman or whatever. Anyways, these two people find each other. They're madly in love. They have that boom right off the bat, right? The butterflies, all the
I
bullshit.
know this.
Yep. So they get together, but it's terrible because she is betrothed to his brother, the king. And they have this mad, torrid love affair. You know, the king loves his brother, but really he should kill his brother. And he knows what's going on. And they're deeply in love. And it's always passionate. And it's always crazy. And it's so forbidden. And it goes on and on and on and on. Eventually, his brother gets sick of his shit and sends him away instead of killing him. And he sends him away. And he lands in this place. And he finds a woman. And I mean, she looks just like her. This woman is so kind and loving that she understands he's in love with another, but believes that they can have like a romantic love built on stability and trust and all this shit. And so she takes care of him. They get married, but he's got that mad, passionate attraction. And so it's telling the story and then breaking it down in like Jungian terms. And in the end, eventually, like they both die because he gets in like this war and all this shit. And then she finds out he's dying and then she comes and then, you know, and then they both die. And they're sad and it was passionate and it was torrid. And it's like, listen, like, look at, that's not love. That what we assume is passion is fucking chaos. They never should have been together. And when he found exactly what he was looking for, because he always wished that it would just be like, it wasn't his brother's wife and that she would like commit to him fully and because she wouldn't run away with him and all this shit. And then he finds it and he's like, no, not good enough because there wasn't that fucking spark, that passion, but there was love. And so that was like the trauma bond going on as opposed to love. And that's what kind of comes to the end. And I think about it a lot because I think about my current relationship, which actually like at some points I was like, shit, like, is this right? Because it's not passionate. It's not someone that's just like, I want to fuck you, like, which comes on old stories of me being fat and gross. And so therefore I need somebody to be like rubbing their boner on me all the time or their wet private parts on me all the time so that I feel wanted, needed, and beautiful. But like, I'm not ever going to get that. Even if someone is doing that, guess what? They're probably not, that's not true. But like my experience is they're probably rubbing their boners on other people too. Because they're just horny and it has nothing to do with me and I'm a hole to plug into, unfortunately. And I realized this. So when we were talking, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. When we were talking today, I was sharing like a space of recognizing that this story of like unworthiness that I have really has me seek out people that have their own shit. And I get it. And I love them. And I see beyond what other people see. Meridee tells me, don't do it. They're a loser. And I'm like, but you don't understand what's below. Like she doesn't see what I see, which is fine. But I don't see what she sees is the part that really is coming to me lately. What I'm starting to recognize that's like a body reaction or maybe even a mind reaction. I notice that I start to feel like I'm crazy because I was gaslit. And when the gaslighting stopped, I actually started to gaslight myself. So it's like an ingrained behavior. And when I start to gaslight myself, the feeling that I have, or the sensation, or the thoughts that I have are, am I crazy?
So I feel like at this moment, you need to give us an example of gaslighting, because this is like the core of this conversation.
Yeah.
When are you gaslighting yourself? When is it self-awareness? Where's that fucking line? People,
Yeah.
where is the line?
Which is a beautiful question because I'm still exploring it. But last night I was like, fuck, I did it again. I'm in a situation in which I have partnered up in some way that is, this person is fucking gaslighting me.
And
it's
no, she's not talking about her partner.
no.
Just so you know.
And that has happened in so many relationships. So what I have to do is recognize like what that is, like you said. So what is gaslighting, right? That's gaslighting is like you confronting
I'm
someone
gonna
about, look it up. Yeah, for sure. I was just thinking about that too. Of like what's a physical definition of gaslighting, because this is a newer term. It's a form.
This has 8 signs as well as what is gaslighting. So this one even says, according to Merriam-Webster, gaslighting is the psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence and self-esteem, and uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and creates a dependence on the perpetrator. So let's get into it. There is a link between gaslighting and abuse, just so you know. There's also examples of how it might not be gaslighting and that people could be sharing their opinions. But
I actually have a perfect example. And
okay,
this is one between Rafa and I, and we had a conversation about it, and then he shared, because I gaslight too. I just want to own that. Right? If you're
I
not
feel like in some ways we all do.
Yeah, if you're not aware, then you, again, what do? We look outwards and tell you how everybody else is a piece of shit and how I'm a victim and poor me, right? So I want to own that I gaslight, but I have this situation in which I saw the gaslighting happen in that moment. And when I told him he was gaslighting me, he got so fucking mad, which is gaslighting in it. So we were in a fight. He was mad at me. I did something that pissed him off. He was in his room. He was behaving different. He was in his office. So I go and I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, nothing. That's gaslighting me because something's wrong. Okay. And I know it and I feel it. And he's behaving in a way in which I've done something wrong. I'm being punished. He's not talking to me. So I'm like, no, you're clearly upset with me. What did I do? He's like, nothing. I'm not mad. I'm like, yeah, you are. What is what? And we went back and forth. And then it was like, oh shit, I know, he knows, and he's lying to me. That's gaslighting. And so I said, you're gaslighting me right now. And he fucking lost it. And I understand, because he also wasn't aware that he was gaslighting me, right? He just was people pleasing in the moment and didn't want to get into it. So he lost it. And then a little bit later was like, oh shit. Because I said, look at the way you're behaving. If you weren't mad at me and today was a normal day, you'd be kissing me and loving me. And if something was bothering you, you would tell me. You wouldn't say, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So yeah. And then he came back like, you're right. I totally did. I see how that's gaslighting, blah, blah, blah. I do the same thing in order to people please. I'll like do something and then blame you.
So it says also, okay, so here are 8 telltale signs that gaslighting is occurring. A gaslighter uses loaded words against you. So if someone calls you crazy, irrational, too sensitive, they're trying to attack your point of view. They may say that you're imagining things or overreacting. Okay, that's gaslighting. A gaslighter is extremely defensive. It says that they get overly defensive over small confrontations because gaslighters need to be right. They don't like to be criticized and refuse to accept blame. Okay. A gaslighter is constantly telling you how you feel. So you shouldn't feel that. But remember that only you are able to decide how you feel about a situation, but they'll make you question your take on reality to get you on their page and undermine your judgment. Number 4 is a gaslighter will always make you out to be the bad guy. So this is where they like deny, accuse, or reverse victim and create you as the offender. It says that a gaslighter might deny that their victim's assertion of hurtful, deceptive, or manipulative behavior. Not only that, but they might turn around and accuse the wounded party of unfairly attacking them, turning themselves into the victim and you into the bad guy.
Yeah.
Number 5 is you start to question your reality around a gaslighter. We already know that. I don't even need to get into that. And holy shit. I remember this just brings it, that one for me brings up, I would be like, Colynn, I'm going to go break up with him and it's going to be over. And I mean, back then cell phones were new, so there was no texting and breaking up. I wish there was because I probably should have done that. But I go there and be like, this is what's happening. You're cheating on me, blah, 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 blah. And I'd come back and Lynn would be like, okay, so you're single? And I'd be like, no, and I don't know how I ended up here. Like so confused because I went in with a determined outcome and came out with the complete opposite outcome because I had been gaslit and manipulated. Number 6 is a gaslighter undermines your self-confidence. And this was also it because they start to make you question yourself. So it says, if your partner doesn't feel safe to you, your partner doesn't feel like somebody you can be yourself with, and that they have your back, you might be a victim of gaslighting. A gaslighter outright denies what you know to be true. So they will delete or destroy evidence of something that happened in order to maintain their version of reality. They may move or adjust things so you question your memory. I have to tell you how uncomfortable that sensation is. That is uncomfortable, especially when the woman is sitting beside you. But then by the time you get there, that never happened and she's the lie. Was it huh? Number 8 is you feel like you need to agree with them on everything. Yeah. Basically trying to avoid things. Now it says narcissistic gaslighting and why people gaslight. They engage in this behavior because they need the world to align with their own perspective and they can feel threatened when it doesn't. It's actually common among people with narcissistic personality disorder, which is also known as NPD. People with NPD have a sense of inflated sense of self-importance, lack of empathy, use of charm, deceit to manipulate people around them. And gaslighting is a major part of that.
Yeah.
So
this is when I start to see, one time I had a client and we were a few months in. And when we had our initial conversation, it was about, like improving our skills teaching yoga, improving our business, which was an aesthetic business. And we started putting things into place. She also said she's having difficulty with her drinking. So we start and we get into it. So I'm not a sober coach, right? I'm sober, but I'm not a sober coach. And that's not what I was hired for. So at some point, we have a conversation because things are just going weird. And I was wondering, am I fucking crazy? What's happening here? And she says to me, since I started working with you, my income has been going down. And it's the lowest that it's been in this many years. And it's like your fault, essentially. But her behaviors were that she was not going to work and she was actually canceling work because she was getting so drunk she couldn't go to work. And then she told me, like, you suck at this because I came to you to go sober. And I was giving her, tips and cues, go to AA. That's what I did. Go to AA. Here's the 12 steps. And I'm not your sponsor because I think that's a conflict of interest, right? In AA, to be of service, to be a sponsor, you don't charge for that shit, right? So I hooked her up with a sponsor who told her to go to AA. Of course, all the reasons why you can't go to AA and how you're not a full alcoholic and all the bullshit that I also said when I started. But now all of a sudden, everything was my fault. And I remember thinking, what? like everything's recorded too. So I could just go back. Like, when did I say that what? When did I tell her that she should drink? Like, I remember this place of like, I finally, like, I gave her the opportunity to get out of her contract and no longer coach with me because I was starting to feel really fucked up on the calls, and it was a red flag. And I sat with it for a bit after. I'm like, I believe that that person does have NPD because I've never felt so fucking gaslit in my life. And I mean, I spent 11 years with someone who gaslit me the whole time. So it's very interesting. If we go back to like the reason for the podcast is last night I'm running a retreat, and last night I was having dinner. I was sharing some stories about we just open and share really deeply, right? We're in a retreat. It's a somatic trauma informed retreat. So we can't not go deep. Sorry, not sorry. And I've been sharing throughout as examples of like places where I find out that like because of my I'm unlovable story, that love bombing thing that people do, right? I'm constantly seeking out, maybe I'm a narcissist. I'm constantly seeking out like this praise that I'm actually good enough. And so when I find a partner that will love bomb me. And this partner doesn't even just have to be my like other half. This can be like someone that I consider a friend that I let into my inner circle. It's often because they love bomb me. That I get this like, you're so great. Oh my God, you're amazing. You know so much. And like all the places where I feel like I'm not enough, they tell me that I am enough.
But those things are also true, which is how come you believe them. Just saying. But continue. Just
And I
saying.
put myself in situations then where I'm in a place where with my people pleasing that I also am afraid to say no. So now here we are, 18 months into relationships where I'm like wondering and questioning my own sanity and what a piece of shit I am and how I've hurt or upset this person. And to be honest, I think I'm the only one losing. I think I have paid out so many people to just leave me alone because it's like it's what they want, right? They want the money in the end so that they're like the victor. And then it's just like I feel so defeated that it's just like I would rather go bankrupt than continue to deal with you. And that's
Yep,
happened to me.
I have paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get people to fuck off. And I'm fucking okay with it because they were lessons learned.
Fair. And I also think it's a default for me that, even in a recent situation, I was with someone who then came back to want money, essentially, even after spending hundreds of
Supporting,
thousands of dollars on that person and having
fully
proof of
supporting
it,
that person.
that they come back at me and want money. And it's just like, I'm crazy because they're telling me I'm wrong. Legals are telling me you don't have to do anything here. And I'm feeling like a piece of shit. But 2 years ago, I spent over $100,000 on you. But I'm a piece of shit and I should give you more money. And then to do the opposite of what I've always done and say no is terrifying for me. It's going in the complete opposite direction of, honestly, in my head, if I just pay this person, they'll fucking be happy and they'll leave me alone. The truth is that they won't always,
Yeah.
right? Because they'll find other ways where you owe them money or other ways to contact you because, I don't know, a parent died or like, something. Coming to Costa Rica, whatever the fucking story is. You got my dog's collar. I don't know. They'll continue, which is essentially blackmailing, right? Like that is blackmailing people because they never stop because they've got this thing hanging over your head. And I found myself to be in this situation again. And first of all,
And then gaslighting yourself.
I'm very glad that I'm in this moment right now where I recognize it, because I've questioned my own sanity like so many times over the last 6 months of like, this person tells me to do something and then I do that thing. And then I say I did this thing and they're like, why are you doing that thing? That's stupid. Not in this market. And then I'm like, but you told, no, I did not. I did not tell you to do that thing. And it's like, but then why would I do, why would I do that then? No, you did tell
Where
me.
else would I have come up with this idea
Right.
from?
So there, and then what I do, this is the gaslighting of myself, is like, Colynn, you got it wrong. Colynn, this person knows more than you. And they tell me they know more than me.
Yep.
Of the two of us, who has made $1 million? Okay,
That's
I
some
mean,
gaslighting right
you,
there.
not me.
That's some
So
gaslighting right
I
there.
should listen to you because you're smarter than me. And then, so then everything that I know, while it's coming up in my body being like, don't do that, don't do that, I'm like, shut up, Colynn, you're a fucking idiot. You don't know anything. This person has made $1 million. You should listen to what they say. And then I do it, and that's not the thing to do.
Yep. And for me, the example we're just going to use, because it's the most recent one, is my dog being left. And me saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal because there was someone else who was able to step in. But in that situation, the question comes down to, is this me? Because in the situation, I'm very aware that there are trigger points for me, and that within it, I get into my ego. And I can tell when I'm in ego because I'm not coming from love and I want to be right. But then I have to sit with it. So this was the conversation Lynn and I were also having is, but when am I gaslighting myself? And when am I having an awareness that I'm unfair?
Right.
And so in our conversation, I'm like, is it that big of a deal? And she was like, now, if someone else hadn't been able to step in, would this have been a fucking big deal, Meridee? And I was like, oh my God, like in so many ways, yes. And then Lynn said, would you have left a fucking toddler for 24 hours by themselves? And I was like, oh. And yet I'm sitting there going, well, it's not that big of a deal because someone else stepped in, or it's not that big of a deal because of, I'm gaslighting myself. The situation was a big deal, period. And because
you're
I don't want to upset
gaslit
people.
too, because essentially it is, but somebody else stepped in. Oh, here's the reasons why. It's not that big of a deal. They didn't die.
Yeah. And that's where is this self-awareness around it? Because I didn't even realize I was gaslighting myself until you pointed it out.
Right.
I literally was like, I needed to put myself in check. And you're like, is that putting yourself in check though? Because this is a fucking big deal.
Right.
I would never have left one of or both of my children alone as toddlers.
Here's something that came up for me in AA. So in AA, there's a lot of being humbled. Okay. And I think a lot of people do need to be humbled, especially when I hear fucking stories. Okay. Because the main addict mindset is me, 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 me. How can I get what I need from you? Me, 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 me. Okay. Codependent people are like you, right? And they end up, I think, being the ones that gaslight themselves because they learn how to gaslight. So what I heard in AA are a lot of people telling stories about about this. Their egos are so big that it's like, what can I get from you? Oh, I see Meridee. What can I get from Meridee? Oh, look, she makes money. She should be my friend. Oh, look, she gives out advice. I need her to, like, how can I get things from you? And this is literally an addict mindset. And the guy Bill talks about it all the time, and like all of this shit. So when people are sharing, I cannot relate to people that are talking about that because I am a caregiver. And so I do the opposite. I'll give of myself to my own detriment. It's for the same reason. Don't get me wrong. Me, 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 me. Like, how can I be comfortable? But it doesn't compute. So I remember there was a girl and she was sharing And then another girl came in and said, listen, I feel called to share because I've never felt like you. For me, I always wonder what it is that I did to upset someone. And then she started sharing from that perspective. I was like, fuck, thank God. So there's a different self-awareness in a victim, right? Because that's what I have been, is a victim, and I have to own it in order to move forward. I can't blame everyone else. I'm acting like a victim, but I'm fucking responsible for me.
Yeah.
So while I'm talking about narcissists and I'm talking about shitty relationships, I put myself in that shit. I 100% take responsibility for it, okay? That person could be a dick and an asshole and all the things, sure, but I'm an idiot in the kindest, most loving way for putting myself in that situation over and over and over again, because I won't just fucking own my own worth, okay? It's a lesson. I'm getting it, maybe slowly, but still surely. Okay, so then there's this humbling that's such a big thing in AA, and it's like, do I really need to humble anymore? I'm fucking on the ground, like giving you all the money that you can have so you feel better, and I'm fucking going bankrupt. So you will leave me the fuck alone, right? So I just want to bring that up because I think those of us that are in this like victim kind of mindset are more self-aware in the way, like it's not more, it's different. I don't want to be like, I'm more self-aware because I am a victim. I'm more self-aware of the victim mentality than someone who's in ego, who would be more self-aware of their own power. Still coming from a place of inferiority though. So we're both in the same situation, it's just being expressed differently. And we have different consciousness, and that person could be way smarter as a doctor than I can be, right? But I might be smarter in spirituality than they will be. So we're all even, but there's this like awareness, I think, that we will use to gaslight ourselves, that someone with a really strong ego will not. How can I get more from you? And I'm like, how can I give you more?
Yep.
Does that make sense? And so you want to know the answer? The answer is the body. That's it. Your body, Vijnanamaya Kosha, go back to the koshas that talk forever ago we did, is the wisdom in your body. Your body tells you all the time. Your problem is, and I'm talking to most people, is you're not in your body. You're in your head. You're so fucking worried about what you look like, what your size is, what your, I don't know, fucking whatever your hair looks like. The whole time I've been obsessing about my fucking hair and how it's like, look at that, right? You're more identified with the external than the internal. And so you're not in your body, you're in your head, because I know, because I'm fucking like, oh, my hair, instead of listening to my body being like, get the fuck away from that person.
See, it's interesting that you say that too, because as I sit and think about it, I remember I was having an actual conversation with the person while I was in the airport, because we had been texting, because I had landed, and then all of a sudden I get all these text messages. So I respond to the text messages, and then I got a phone call. And so I'm sitting there having the phone call, and I just had noticed the sensation that was moving through my body. And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And the whole time the conversation was about the dog and about, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And I was like, but I can throw a plate on the floor, and when I say I'm sorry to it, it didn't magically put itself back together again. It's still sitting broken. And I need acknowledgement around what you did and how big of a deal this is to me, even if it's not to you. I need you to get out of victim. You aren't the victim in this situation. And I'm not saying I am. My dog got punished, and she did nothing wrong. Now, yes, I chose a dog who has anxiety, and yes, I made choices. So I take ownership also in the fact that this is it. But I also made sure to make an agreement with someone to take care of my dog while I went and worked. And when I was let down on that, there's disappointment. There's not just that, like my poor dog, she's like another child to me. So there's all these things. And in the moment while I'm trying to get them to acknowledge this, my body is like inside just shaking. my adrenaline is running because I'm so upset about this. And then when I hang up, I'm like, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Right. And what's this saying? That's how you know. So that's the answer. You want to know? You're like, how do I know? Well, it's not like just tomorrow. Okay, good. Like you actually have to be in your body more than in your head. And the way
Yeah.
you know you're in your head is if you're thinking. And it's not really thinking, it's just like a bullshit. It's called the default mode network, and it's constantly shit talking you. And that's how you know. Because Meridee, your body was like, hey, and then your head was like, it's not a big deal. Your head's not helpful. Your body knows everything. And it's time to listen. That's when I start to like question my own sanity. That's not up here because my head's telling me you're being dramatic. You're too much. You're trying to blame your problems on someone else, because I teach that all the time because I work with so many people that blame their problems on everybody else.
I mean, everybody seems to do that one thing, is blame, 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 because it feels easier. Actually, even my son and I were having a conversation yesterday, and one of the things he said is, you know, owning my shit is probably the hardest thing ever, because he did something and said something that felt right in the moment. But then when his girlfriend sat him down and said, like, hey, like, this isn't quite right, for him to like get out of his ego and be like, you know what, you're right, I'm wrong, what I said was hurtful. And oftentimes too, understanding our anger, our frustration, all of these things are covering up what's really happening, which is fear and hurt. Those are the things in this entire situation that are happening for me as well as for him in this. And when I'm coming from fear and hurt, I am often in ego, but I respond with anger, because it's easier to respond with than to open my heart and say, hey, you're hurting me because you're already hurting me. So now I want to protect my heart. Now I'm going to get angry. If you can try and keep your heart open, which is how things ended up going in the conversation, like, I'm hurt because you know how much this means to me. This dog is like my other child. Sometimes I like her more than I like my children because she doesn't back talk. She doesn't have her own opinion. She doesn't need to go do her own thing. If I say go outside to pee, she goes outside to pee. Like, she is not a sovereign being. So sometimes I enjoy it more. But that being said, coming from a place of love, in this moment, I'm hurt. I'm very hurt that I was let down. I'm very hurt that you would punish my dog or treat my dog the way that you did. She didn't deserve it. And that's where I start to come from anger. So also acknowledging that piece of it. When I'm angry, there's more below it. So let's find out, because anger is just one of the easiest things to cover every other feeling up with.
For you.
For me. And for many people.
Not for me.
That's a different one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
passive aggressive.
Yeah. I'll just hide that shit and then I'll just be fucking dramatic.
Which is so funny because I like dealt with it like brushed it off because it was passive aggressive. And unless you're gonna say directly to me what you need, I'm gonna treat you like a 3-year-old rambling about their book.
Yeah.
Like, very interesting how we all deal with things in such different ways.
Totally.
So awesome. I think this was a really great podcast. I hope you guys got something from it. And I know I did. And in this moment, I'm really going to be looking differently at, like, when am I gaslighting myself?
Right.
And when I'm not.
Right.
Also, having someone to bounce these things off of is so incredibly important, you guys.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins always says, get in your head, you're dead. So don't stay in your own head. Talk to somebody. Find out where you're coming from.
Well,
Trust me.
She's
always putting me in check.
Let's just take a moment too, because your friend, I always think of Stutz when he talks about, like, it's a documentary, if anybody hasn't seen it, it's really good. Jonah Hill and his psychiatrist. And he talks about, like, he says, you go to your friends, they're all a bunch of idiots, and they just tell you what you want to hear for free. But I pay you, and you never tell me anything. So it's not like, also bouncing it off of someone. Your friends don't always hit. This is why coaches are, to me, so valuable, because they see your blank spots, they see your blind spots, and can be really helpful. And so Meridee and I we're sisters, we're friends. But a lot of the time when we're having these conversations, there is sometimes a conversation about, like, listen, shut the fuck up. I just need to talk.
I just need to vent today.
Yeah. And then also like, what, I need some help here, what's going on? And we come at it like coaches for each other, not friends, not telling each other what we want to hear. And that's why I do think like coaches will see your blind spots, and they give like a less biased opinion than your friends. And so sometimes bouncing things off your friends are also aren't trained to recognize that they're giving you advice for themselves.
Yes.
So they'll just tell you what they would do, which they probably wouldn't do anyways, right? How quick are your friends to be like, leave him, and they're in a fucking shitty ass relationship?
Yes.
You're like, okay, cool, but you too? No, never. Because you don't understand, because my guy is.
And here we go back to the, but you don't understand.
That was the end. That was the huge thing that I said to Meridee today. Last night, when someone was telling me to end this relationship, this partnership, all I could think of, and I said this to them, was like, but you don't understand. Like, you don't understand. Like, there's all these other things that could be helpful, but you don't understand. And I thought, that's it. When I feel like you don't understand, and there's all these people that have, I don't understand. They clearly see something that I can't see. Why would Rafa, Meridee, random people at a retreat, some
who have only
fucking
heard a few
person
stories
that I talked to down the road, why would they all tell me get out? And I'm like, you don't understand, because there's all these things. And I keep going there. And last night I was like, shit, that's it. That's what I said about my best friend. That's what I said about my previous partner. That's what I said about this person. You don't understand. And I think that if I tell everybody your external world is a reflection of your internal world, and I'm telling everybody you don't understand, or just thinking it, sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay. And then in my head, I'm like, but you don't understand. You're not in the same position as I am. And then I like do this intellectual thing where you're an idiot and I know better. And that's, maybe I don't understand. And that's now a thing that I said to Meridee, like, shit, there's something I got to look at. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. And this is fantastic though, because that was kind of the point of it, is when you don't understand, but there's all these people around you who are saying the same thing. Maybe it's me who doesn't understand.
Yeah. Do you really think your friends and your family want you to fail?
Or suffer? I mean, and there are going to be people, don't get me wrong, some people really don't like seeing other people succeed. So there is going to be some of that.
Those should not be your friends.
They should not be.
Just
Even if
saying.
they're your family, they should not be. That being said, the ones that love you the most and want you to be happy and want all of the best things for you, they only get concerned when they think you're heading down the road that's going to not take you down there.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
Thank
Hey, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Yet another podcast. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colynn and Meridee Lockoff, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.